In the far reaches of the galaxy, there existed a species known as the Xerelians. They were gentle, intelligent beings with the power to control light and energy. For centuries, their civilization had flourished across many planets, creating cities that sparkled like stars. But now, they were gone. The Xerelian homeworld had fallen to a ruthless alien empire that sought to destroy anything that could resist them. Only one remained. Myra was the last of her kind. She had been a child when the Empire attacked her world. She remembered the screams, the roaring ships, and the burning cities. Her family had tried to hide her, but the enemies found them. She had escaped, running through the twisted forests and across broken streets. She remembered the feel of the wind on her face as she leapt into the last shuttle capable of escaping the planet. Now, years later, she lived alone on a small ruined planet at the edge of the galaxy. The planet was barren and quiet. Its skies were painted in dark purple and red, with twin suns that gave the surface an eerie glow. Myra made her home in an abandoned city, hiding among the broken buildings. The city had once been alive, full of Xerelian light and laughter, but now it was silent except for the wind. She scavenged for food and water, always alert for signs of the Empire. She moved like a shadow, careful to leave no trace. Despite the danger, Myra often wandered through the old city, remembering the beauty that had once existed. She touched the walls of tall towers that still shimmered faintly with energy, a reminder of her people's brilliance. Her heart ached for what was lost, but she held on to hope. As long as she lived, the Xerelian light had not completely vanished. Myra had learned to hide well, but she was not without skill. She could bend light around herself, making her almost invisible to the naked eye. She could also create small bursts of energy to defend herself if necessary. Yet, she was not a fighter by nature. She preferred to avoid conflict, relying on cleverness and speed. But she knew that one day she might not have a choice. The Empire had not forgotten her, and she could sense their search growing closer. On one quiet morning, Myra awoke to a distant hum in the sky. She froze, listening carefully. It was not the normal wind or the soft buzz of the planet's energy fields. This was different. A ship. Not one of her people, but a ship of the Empire. Her heart raced as she slipped into the shadows of a broken tower, hiding herself with a skill only the last Xerelian could manage. She watched as the ship descended, its dark metal surface glinting in the light of the twin suns. Myra stayed still for hours, observing the patrols that moved through the city. The Empire had deployed small search teams, careful not to destroy too much of the city. They wanted her alive, or at least captured. Myra had survived many close calls before, but this felt different. Their attention was sharper, their search methodical. It was as if they had learned from their past failures. As night fell, the hum of the ship faded, and Myra allowed herself a brief moment of relief. But she knew it would not last. The Empire would return. She needed a plan. She could not fight them alone forever. She could run, hiding among the forests and mountains of the planet, but even then, she knew they would eventually find her. Myra's thoughts drifted to the legends of other beings in the galaxy. Stories of humans, who were brave and clever, had reached her ears through scattered travelers and old recordings left by traders. Humans were not like the Empire. They were unpredictable, full of courage and stubbornness. Some legends said humans had saved entire planets with their determination alone. Myra had never met a human, but the idea sparked something in her heart. Perhaps, one day, someone like that could come for her. For now, she focused on survival. Myra moved through the ruins with the grace of a shadow. She gathered energy crystals from the broken streets, storing them carefully in a hidden chamber. These crystals could amplify her powers if used correctly. She also collected water and food from the remains of old markets. Everything she did was precise, careful not to leave traces that could lead the Empire to her. Despite the loneliness, Myra found comfort in the small things. She liked the way the twin suns reflected off the broken glass of old towers. She enjoyed listening to the faint hum of energy flowing through the abandoned city. She practiced her light manipulation, creating small glowing shapes that floated around her home. These shapes reminded her of her family, her people, and the beauty of her kind. But loneliness was not the only challenge. Fear was constant. The Empire could strike at any moment. Myra's nights were spent listening, her senses alert. Shadows could hide enemies, and the slightest sound could mean discovery. She had learned to sleep lightly, waking at the smallest disturbance. Even dreams were dangerous, as they could make her lose focus and slow her reflexes. One evening, as Myra practiced creating light patterns, she felt a presence. It was subtle, a vibration in the energy of the city. She paused, listening carefully. The feeling was not entirely hostile. It was distant, faint, but different from the usual hum of the planet. Myra's curiosity grew, but so did her caution. She could not afford mistakes. For hours, she watched, waiting. The presence moved with purpose, almost like it was searching. Myra's instincts told her it was not the Empire. There was something different, something familiar in the energy signature she felt. She could not explain it, but it gave her hope. Maybe the legends of humans were true. Maybe someone would come for her. The days passed slowly. Myra continued her routine, hiding, scavenging, and practicing her powers. The Empire returned several times, searching more aggressively. Myra used her abilities to evade them, slipping through shadows and vanishing when they approached. Each encounter reminded her of how close she was to being captured or destroyed. Despite the danger, Myra's hope grew stronger with each day. She imagined a future where she was not alone, where her people's legacy could live on. She dreamed of meeting someone brave enough to fight for her, someone who could help her survive and protect the light of her kind. These dreams kept her going, giving her the courage to face each day. And then, on a quiet morning, as the twin suns rose and cast long shadows across the ruined city, Myra sensed it again. The presence was stronger now, closer. It moved with determination, not like the Empire's search teams, but like someone who knew what they were looking for. Myra felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Could it be true? Was someone coming for her? She crouched in the shadows, heart pounding. The figure appeared in the distance, moving steadily through the ruins. It was humanoid, tall and strong, carrying weapons, but there was something about its presence that felt different. It did not radiate the cold precision of the Empire. Instead, there was courage and resolve, an energy that Myra had only imagined in her dreams. Myra watched, silent and tense. She did not know who this being was, but she sensed that her life was about to change. For the first time in many years, she allowed herself a spark of hope. Perhaps she would no longer be the last of her kind. Perhaps someone had come to save her. The figure drew closer, and Myra could see the determination in its movements. It scanned the ruins, alert to danger, yet moving with purpose. Myra's heart raced. This could be the moment she had been waiting for, the arrival of a brave soul willing to fight for her life and the legacy of her people. She stepped back into the shadows, ready to reveal herself if necessary, but hoping that this being was not an enemy. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Myra felt a flicker of light in the darkness. Somewhere in the galaxy, a human warrior was coming for her, and Myra's story was about to enter a new chapter. The figure moved through the ruins with careful steps. Kian, the human warrior, had traveled far across the galaxy to find Myra. He had heard rumors of the last Zarelian, a being with incredible abilities, hiding from a merciless alien empire. Many had tried to find her and failed. But Kian was different. He had faced impossible odds before, and he had never given up on a mission. Kian's ship had taken him through asteroid fields, past planets crawling with pirates, and across dangerous space storms. He had navigated traps and enemy patrols with skill and patience. Each challenge had tested his courage, but he had overcome them. Now, he was close. The ruins of the Zarelian city stretched out before him, broken towers glimmering faintly under the twin suns. It was a city of ghosts, but one ghost remained alive. He paused at the edge of a collapsed bridge, scanning the area with his visor. His sensors detected traces of energy unlike anything he had seen before. This energy was faint but alive, almost like a heartbeat. He smiled quietly to himself. It had to be her. Myra, the last Zarelian, was close. Kian's mind sharpened, focusing on the path ahead. He knew the Empire was searching too, and he had to move quickly. Kian had prepared for this mission in every way possible. He carried an energy blade that could cut through almost anything, reinforced armor that adapted to different environments, and tools to disable traps or unlock ancient doors. But he also carried patience and caution, knowing that brute force alone would not save Myra. She needed someone who could reach her safely, someone who could inspire trust. As he moved through the city, Kian noticed the silence. The air was heavy, filled with dust and faint energy pulses from the remaining structures. Broken towers stretched toward the sky like the fingers of a fallen giant. He remembered stories of the Zarelian's brilliance and felt a pang of sorrow for what had been lost. Yet, he knew that survival depended not on mourning the past but on acting in the present. Kian's steps were light, careful not to disturb the ruins. He passed empty streets and collapsed buildings, scanning every corner for signs of life or danger. Occasionally, he paused, listening for movement. He sensed the presence of the Empire in the distance, patrols searching methodically, but none had seen him. He relied on his instincts, honed through years of missions where failure was not an option. Hours passed, and the twin suns began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the city. Kian found a vantage point on a broken tower and observed the area below. There, among the ruins, he noticed a faint glow. The light moved in a way that no natural energy could. Kian's heart raced. It had to be Myra. He descended carefully, moving closer while keeping low. The glow shifted and pulsed as if it sensed him. Kian spoke softly, "Myra, I am here to help you. You are not alone." His voice carried confidence, calmness, and reassurance. He hoped that she could hear him, that she would trust him. Myra, hiding in the shadows of a nearby tower, felt the voice. Her heart skipped a beat. It was not the cold, harsh tone of the Empire. It was different, gentle yet strong. She watched carefully, unsure whether this human could be trusted. Humans were strangers to her, their motives unknown. Yet, something in the voice sparked hope. Perhaps this being was the one she had imagined, brave and willing to help. She stepped back, still hidden, and observed him. The human moved with care and skill, avoiding debris and unstable ground. He did not make the mistakes of the Empire's soldiers. He seemed to understand the risks and the value of patience. Myra felt a flicker of trust. She had survived alone for so long, but maybe, just maybe, help had arrived. Kian continued his approach, speaking occasionally in a soft voice, assuring Myra that he meant no harm. He moved slowly, careful not to trigger any defensive instincts she might have. He knew that approaching her too quickly could scare her away. Trust had to be earned. He also knew that the Empire's patrols could return at any moment. Time was critical. Suddenly, a patrol drone appeared at the edge of the city. It hovered silently, scanning the streets for movement. Kian ducked behind a broken wall, analyzing its pattern. The drone was fast but predictable. Using a small device, he disabled its sensors temporarily, causing it to drift aimlessly before collapsing. Myra watched in amazement. The human was clever, using strategy instead of direct confrontation. She decided to step a little closer, curious and cautious. The glow of her energy followed her movements, small orbs of light floating around her. Kian noticed the movement immediately. He raised his hand and spoke gently, "I know you are there. I will not harm you. I want to help you escape." Myra hesitated. Her mind raced with questions. Could she trust him? What if he was like the Empire, seeking to capture her? But the calm and determination in his voice felt real. She had dreamed of someone coming for her, someone brave enough to face the Empire and protect her. Her curiosity overcame her fear. Slowly, she stepped into a faint ray of light, revealing her form. Kian's eyes widened slightly at the sight of her. Myra was small, delicate in appearance, yet the glow of her energy marked her as powerful. Her large, expressive eyes reflected fear, but also hope. Kian smiled softly, lowering his weapon slightly. "Myra, I am Kian. I have come to take you away from this place. You are not alone anymore." Myra's voice trembled as she spoke. "Why would you help me? Humans do not usually care about beings like me." Kian shook his head. "Not all humans are the same. Some of us believe in courage and protecting life. I will not let the Empire destroy you. I promise you, you will survive." The moment was fragile. The ruins were silent, as if the city itself held its breath. Myra studied Kian carefully, searching for any sign of deceit. She found none. The determination in his stance, the calm in his eyes, and the careful way he moved all told her that he meant what he said. She felt a small spark of hope. Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed through the streets. A patrol from the Empire had returned, more aggressive than before. Kian glanced at Myra and spoke firmly, "We need to move. Now." He extended his hand, offering her safety and trust. Myra hesitated only for a moment before taking his hand. The warmth and strength of his grip reassured her. Together, they moved through the streets, avoiding patrols and unstable debris. Kian led the way, using his knowledge of tactics to stay ahead of the enemy. Myra followed, her energy pulsing quietly, ready to defend herself if necessary. As they ran, Kian spoke softly, "I have traveled far to find you. You are important, Myra. Your survival matters to many, not just me." Myra nodded, beginning to feel a connection with this human warrior. She realized that she was no longer alone. For the first time in years, she felt the possibility of hope. Someone had come for her, not to destroy her, but to protect her. The human was brave, and his courage gave her strength. They reached the edge of the city as the sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched across the ruins, creating a dangerous but beautiful landscape. Kian paused and looked at Myra. "We need to find a safe place to rest. The Empire will be back, and we must prepare." Myra agreed, following him through the broken streets. She could feel her energy responding to Kian's presence, subtle and calming. Together, they moved like shadows, careful, alert, and ready. The bond between them was growing, built on trust and shared purpose. As night fell, the ruins became quiet again. Myra and Kian found shelter in an old tower, its walls still glowing faintly with residual energy. They settled inside, keeping watch while resting. Myra studied Kian as he cleaned his blade and checked his equipment. He was focused, disciplined, and kind. He was different from anyone she had ever met. "I never thought I would meet someone like you," Myra said quietly. Kian looked at her and smiled gently. "You are not alone anymore. Together, we will face what comes next." Outside, the stars shone brightly in the dark sky, reminding Myra of her lost home. Yet, for the first time in years, she did not feel alone. A human warrior had come for her, and together they would face the challenges ahead. The Empire might still hunt them, but with courage, trust, and determination, they had a chance to survive. And so, the journey of Myra and Kian began, united by hope, courage, and the desire to protect life. The last Xerelian had found a brave friend, and the galaxy would soon witness the power of their bond. The ruined tower was quiet, but Myra and Kian knew silence did not mean safety. The Empire was always near, their machines scanning, their soldiers marching. Kian sharpened his energy blade with calm focus while Myra sat by the faint glow of the old wall crystals. For a long time, neither spoke. Both understood that the journey ahead would be hard. Finally, Kian broke the silence. "The Empire will come again. They know you are here. We cannot wait for them to trap us." His tone was steady, but Myra could sense the weight of his words. She looked down at her hands, faint light shimmering around her fingers. "I have been hiding for so long. I never thought about leaving. But now, with you here, I wonder if running is enough. They will never stop." Kian met her eyes. "That is why we must fight smart. Running will only delay them. Together, we can make it harder for them to reach you. We can survive this." Myra studied him carefully. His confidence was strange to her. Humans were small compared to many species, yet this one carried himself as though size and strength meant little. He carried belief, and belief could be stronger than steel. They set out at dawn, leaving the tower behind. The city stretched out in ruins, jagged walls, and broken bridges casting long shadows under the twin suns. Myra walked lightly, her steps silent. Kian moved with practiced care, scanning ahead for danger. His visor showed heat signatures, and he adjusted their path each time a patrol appeared. But the Empire was not careless. Soon, they encountered their first obstacle. A squad of armored soldiers marched through the streets, scanning the ruins with mechanical precision. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready to fire. Kian pulled Myra behind a wall and whispered, "Stay low. I will draw them away. If I fall, you must keep running." Myra's heart pounded. "No. If you fight them alone, you will die. Let me help you." She raised her hand, and a soft glow spread across her palm. "I am not as weak as I once was." Kian looked at her for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Stay close." We fight together. The soldiers advanced, unaware of the pair waiting in the shadows. Kian leapt first, his energy blade flashing with bright light as it clashed against metal armor. Sparks filled the air as he cut through the first soldier's weapon, sending it clattering to the ground. The others turned quickly, raising their rifles, but Myra stepped forward. She lifted her hands, and light surged outward, forming a bright wall between them and the soldiers. Their shots bounced harmlessly off the barrier. Her energy glowed brighter than before, her fear sharpening into focus. Kian used the cover she created to rush forward, striking down 2 more soldiers with precise movements. The last soldier tried to retreat, signaling for reinforcements, but Myra extended her hand again. A burst of energy shot forward, knocking the soldier off his feet. She breathed heavily, surprised at her own strength. The light around her dimmed as her body trembled from the effort. Kian returned to her side, breathing hard but smiling. You did well. Without you, this fight would have been much harder. Myra shook her head. I have never used my power like this before. It feels strange, as if it is waking inside me. Kian placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we will make sure you learn to control it. You are not alone anymore. They moved quickly, knowing reinforcements would arrive soon. Myra's power had revealed their location. The Empire would not ignore such a display. They slipped into the lower levels of the city, where tunnels stretched like veins beneath the ruins. Here, the air was damp and cold, filled with echoes of dripping water. As they walked, Kian explained his plan. We must reach my ship. It is hidden at the edge of the forest beyond the city. Once we leave the planet, the Empire will follow, but space gives us more freedom to move. Staying here means certain death. Myra listened carefully, but her thoughts were heavy. She had lived her whole life hiding. The idea of leaving was terrifying, yet also full of hope. Will your people accept me? I am the last of my kind. I have nothing to offer. Kian stopped and looked at her firmly. You are wrong. You have survived against an empire that destroyed entire civilizations. You carry the legacy of your people. That alone is worth more than you know. My people will see that. I see it already. Myra's chest tightened with emotion. She nodded quietly and followed him deeper into the tunnels. Hours passed as they moved through the underground paths, but the Empire's presence was everywhere. Drones buzzed above the tunnels, sending beams of light through cracks in the ceiling. Occasionally, soldiers blocked their way, forcing them to hide in silence until the danger passed. Myra felt her strength fading, but Kian never faltered. He carried her when her legs grew weak, his determination unshaken. At last, they reached the edge of the city. The forest stretched before them, its twisted trees glowing faintly with alien energy. The ground pulsed softly, as though the planet itself was alive. Myra breathed deeply, relieved to leave the ruins behind, but Kian remained cautious. The forest will give us cover, but it also hides dangers. Stay close to me. They moved through the trees, careful with each step. Strange creatures shifted in the shadows, their eyes glowing faintly, but none attacked. Myra whispered, "This place feels alive. My people once believed forests like this were sacred." Kian nodded. Then perhaps it will protect you now. But safety was short-lived. A sudden roar filled the air as an Empire gunship descended through the clouds. Its engines shook the ground, and bright searchlights cut through the forest. Myra's eyes widened in fear. They found us. Kian pulled her forward. Run. Do not stop. They dashed through the forest as beams of light swept across the ground. Soldiers dropped from the ship, chasing them with heavy steps. Kian slashed at branches, clearing a path while Myra struggled to keep up. The glow of her power flickered, drained from the earlier fight, but desperation gave her strength. The gunship's weapons fired, scorching the earth behind them. Trees splintered and fell, blocking paths. Kian spotted a cave ahead and pulled Myra inside just as another blast struck nearby. Rocks tumbled, sealing the entrance partially but leaving them a narrow space to breathe. Inside, the cave was dark and silent except for their heavy breathing. Myra sank to the ground, trembling. We cannot win against them. They are too strong. Kian crouched beside her, his voice firm but calm. Strength is not only in numbers. The Empire underestimates what we can do together. They see only one Zarelian and one human. But they do not understand courage. Myra looked at him, searching his face for doubt, but found none. His determination was unshaken, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Slowly, she felt her own fear lessen. Perhaps courage could indeed be stronger than fear. Kian stood and examined the cave. This place connects to old tunnels. If we follow them, we can circle around and reach my ship unseen. But you must be ready. The Empire will not stop hunting us. Myra nodded, her light flickering brighter with renewed resolve. I will not run forever. If I must fight, I will fight. With you, I am not afraid. The cave echoed with her words, as if the planet itself approved. Together, they moved deeper into the darkness, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Outside, the Empire's ship circled the forest, soldiers searching every shadow. But within the cave, hope burned quietly between a human warrior and the last of a lost people. They were not finished. Their story was only beginning. And the galaxy would soon learn that courage and unity could defy even the strongest empire. The cave was long and winding, its walls glowing faintly with crystals hidden deep in the stone. Myra and Kian walked carefully, the faint light guiding their steps. Behind them, the sounds of Empire soldiers echoed in the distance. The enemy was still searching, their voices sharp, their weapons humming with energy. But for now, the cave shielded them. Kian kept his blade ready, his eyes scanning every corner. He was calm, but his body was alert, every sense sharpened. Myra followed, her light glowing faintly around her hands. She felt the tension rising inside her chest. Every step was a reminder that the Empire was near. Every breath carried the weight of survival. After a long silence, Myra spoke softly. I have hidden my powers for so long. Using them before felt strange, almost like I was touching something bigger than myself. But I do not know how to control it. What if I fail you? Kian slowed and turned to her. His eyes were steady, full of belief. You will not fail me. Power is not only about strength. It is about control, focus, and courage. You already have courage. The rest will come with practice. Myra looked down, unsure. Her hands glowed softly, the light trembling. I feel like the energy inside me is alive. Sometimes it listens, but sometimes it fights me. I do not know how to make it obey. Kian gave a small smile. Then we will train it together. The Empire will not wait, but we can still prepare. You must learn to trust yourself. They stopped in a wider part of the cave where crystals formed tall spires. The air pulsed faintly with energy, like a heartbeat. Kian set down his pack and motioned for Myra to stand in the center. This place is safe for now. Show me what you can do. Do not hold back. Myra hesitated, but then she lifted her hands. Light gathered around her fingers, forming small orbs that floated into the air. They drifted like stars, glowing softly. Kian watched closely. Good. Now focus. Give them shape, not just light. She concentrated, and the orbs shifted. They stretched into lines, then twisted into patterns like flowing water. For a moment, the cave sparkled with beauty. But then the light flickered, and the shapes collapsed. Myra gasped, her energy fading. It will not stay. I cannot keep control. Kian stepped forward. Breathe. Do not fight it. Guide it, like moving with the current of a river. Do not force it. Myra tried again. This time she breathed slowly, calming her heart. The light returned, steadier, brighter. She shaped it into a shield, a curved wall of glowing energy. Kian touched it lightly, feeling its warmth and strength. Better. Stronger. You are learning. For hours they practiced. Myra formed shields, bursts of light, and glowing weapons. At first her energy faltered quickly, leaving her exhausted. But with Kian's steady guidance, she lasted longer each time. She began to feel the rhythm of her power, as if it were part of her heartbeat. When she grew tired, Kian encouraged her gently. Do not fear failure. Every mistake is a step forward. Your people's gift lives in you, Myra. It is not gone. Myra's eyes shone with determination. Then I will not let it die with me. Their training was interrupted by the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the cave. The Empire had found a way inside. Kian drew his blade quickly, his voice low but firm. They are here. Stay behind me. But Myra shook her head. No, I must fight too. I cannot hide anymore. The soldiers appeared from the shadows, their armor glinting in the crystal light. They raised their weapons, firing beams of energy. Kian deflected the shots with his blade, sparks flying. He moved swiftly, striking down the first soldier with precise force. But more followed, their numbers growing. Myra raised her hands, and light surged around her. A shield formed, blocking the blasts aimed at Kian's back. Her heart pounded, but her focus held. Go. I will cover you. Kian moved forward, his blade flashing, cutting through the enemy line. Myra pushed her energy outward, bursts of light knocking soldiers back. She felt her strength burning inside her, stronger than before. The training had awakened something within her. But the Empire's soldiers were relentless. A heavy unit stepped forward, its armor thick and glowing with shields. It raised a massive weapon, aiming directly at Myra. She froze for a moment, fear gripping her chest. Kian saw the danger and shouted, "Focus, Myra. You can stop it?" Her eyes widened, and for a heartbeat she doubted. But then she remembered his words. Trust yourself. Do not force it. Guide it. She lifted her hands and pulled the energy inside her into one powerful wave. A bright beam of light erupted, striking the soldier's shield. The cave shook with the impact. The shield cracked, then shattered. The soldier collapsed, its armor smoking. Myra gasped, her body trembling from the effort, but she remained standing. Kian finished the last of the soldiers and hurried to her side. He placed a hand on her arm, steadying her. You did it? That was not luck. That was strength and control. Myra breathed heavily, sweat on her forehead, but her eyes shone with pride. I felt it. For the first time, I felt like the energy listened to me. Kian nodded. Remember that feeling. Hold on to it. It will keep you alive. They pressed deeper into the cave, leaving the fallen soldiers behind. Myra's confidence grew with every step. She no longer felt like a helpless survivor. She was beginning to feel like a fighter, someone who could stand against the Empire. As they walked, Kian spoke quietly. The Empire will not stop. But if you master this power, you will be more than their target. You will be their greatest fear. Myra looked at him with determination. Then I will master it. Not for revenge, but so that my people's light will not vanish. The cave opened into an exit leading into the forest again. The night sky stretched above them, stars shining brightly. For a moment, Myra felt small under the vastness of space, but then she looked at Kian. He stood strong, his presence steady as always. With him, she did not feel small. She felt ready. They found shelter under the great roots of a massive tree, its trunk glowing faintly with natural energy. There, they rested for the night. Kian kept watch while Myra practiced shaping small lights into patterns above her hand. She was tired, but she refused to stop. Kian watched her quietly and thought of how far she had come. She was no longer only the last of her kind hiding in ruins. She was becoming something more. A partner. An ally. Perhaps even a spark that could change the galaxy. Myra finally lowered her hand, the lights fading. She looked at Kian and whispered, "Thank you. If you had not come, I would still be hiding, waiting for the end. But now, I want to live. I want to fight." Kian smiled faintly. "Then we will fight together. And we will survive." The stars above seemed brighter, as if the universe itself approved of their bond. The Empire was still out there, strong and merciless. But Myra was no longer afraid. Her power was awakening, and with Kian by her side, she believed they could face whatever came next. The night passed quietly, but their journey was far from over. The next day would bring new dangers, and their fight was only beginning. Yet, hope burned brighter than ever. A human warrior and the last of the Zeralians had joined their strength, and together they would defy the darkness that sought to consume them. The morning light filtered through the great trees, soft beams shining on the ground where Myra and Kian had rested. The air felt heavy, not from the forest but from the knowledge that the Empire was close. Kian tightened the straps of his armor while Myra sat quietly with her hands glowing faintly. She practiced small shapes, her control sharper now than it had ever been. Kian looked at her with calm pride. "You are stronger than yesterday. But today we face more than soldiers. The Empire will send someone greater. You must be ready." Myra lifted her head, determination in her eyes. "I am ready. I will not run anymore." They set out through the forest, moving quickly toward the valley beyond. The Empire's signals had been spreading across the skies, ships moving like shadows above the trees. The hunt was tightening. By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking the valley. In the distance stood a fortress made of steel and stone, its towers glowing with energy shields. Soldiers marched at its base, and above it hovered a ship larger than anything Myra had ever seen. Her breath caught. "That is where they are waiting. I can feel it." Kian's eyes narrowed. "Yes. And their leader will be there. The one who wants your kind erased." Myra's heart raced, but she steadied herself. "Then we will go together." They descended the ridge, keeping low among the rocks and trees. But soon the Empire's soldiers spotted them. Sirens echoed, and lines of troops moved into position. Blades, rifles, and shields glowed in the sunlight. Kian drew his weapon, his voice calm but firm. Stay close. Do not waste your power. Use it when the moment comes. The first wave of soldiers charged. Kian met them head-on, his blade flashing with precise strikes. He moved like a storm, fast and unyielding, cutting through their line with skill that Myra had come to trust. Behind him, Myra raised her hands, light bursting outward to shield them from enemy fire. Energy beams struck her barrier, but it held strong. As the battle raged, Myra's fear began to fade. She felt her energy flowing, steady and sure. She no longer hesitated. She guided her power with focus, pushing soldiers back with waves of force, blinding them with flashes of light so Kian could strike. Together, they moved as one. But soon, the ground shook as a massive figure stepped from the fortress gates. Tall and armored in black steel, the commander of the Empire forces emerged. His armor glowed with red light, and in his hand he held a weapon longer than any soldier's blade. His voice thundered across the valley. You are the last Zarelian. And you, human, dare to defy the Empire. You will both fall today. Myra felt the weight of his presence. His power was immense, his armor nearly alive with energy. But Kian stood tall, blade ready. If you want her, you must go through me. The commander raised his weapon, and the battle began. He moved with surprising speed, his strikes heavy and precise. Kian met him with equal strength, their blades clashing with sparks that lit the air. Each strike shook the ground, the sound echoing across the valley. Soldiers stopped fighting to watch their leaders clash. Myra stood back at first, shielding them both from stray fire, but soon she realized the commander's strength was overwhelming. Kian held his ground, but every strike forced him back a step. Sweat ran down his face, his grip firm but straining. Myra's heart pounded. She could not only stand and watch. She closed her eyes, calling on her power, feeling it flow through her veins like fire. She remembered Kian's words, guide it, do not force it. She lifted her hands, and a wave of light burst from her, sweeping across the valley. Soldiers were thrown back, weapons shattered. Even the commander staggered, his armor glowing brighter to resist the force. His helmet turned toward her, his voice sharp with anger. So the last of your kind still carries fire. Then I will burn it out myself. He turned his full focus on Myra, charging with his weapon raised. Kian leapt in his path, blocking the strike, sparks flying as blade met blade. You will not touch her. But the commander's strength pushed him down, his armor pressing like a mountain. Myra saw Kian struggling, his knees bending under the weight. She felt fear, but then her determination rose higher. She would not let the man who saved her fall. Myra stepped forward, her hands glowing brighter than ever before. You will not take my light. She unleashed her energy, forming a shield around Kian and herself. The commander's weapon slammed into it, but the shield held. The glow spread, brighter and brighter, until it blinded everyone in the valley. Soldiers shielded their eyes, and even the commander staggered back. Myra's voice rose, strong and clear. My people are not gone. I live, and I will fight. The energy around her grew into wings of light that stretched across the battlefield. With a single motion, she sent a wave crashing into the commander, knocking him to the ground. His armor cracked, sparks flying. Kian stood, regaining his strength, and together they advanced. The commander roared and charged again, But now Myra and Kian fought as one. Her shields blocked his strikes while Kian's blade struck with speed. She blinded him with flashes of light, and Kian pierced his defenses. Finally, Myra gathered all her power into one last strike. Her hands glowed brighter than the sun, and with a cry she unleashed it. The beam struck the commander's chest, shattering his armor. Kian followed with a final strike of his blade, cutting the weapon from his hands. The commander fell to his knees, his armor broken, his strength gone. Around them, soldiers dropped their weapons, fear filling their eyes. Without their leader, they had no will to fight. Silence filled the valley. Myra stood, breathing heavily, her body trembling from the effort. But she did not fall. Her light slowly dimmed, fading back into her hands. She looked at Kian, and for the first time since she had met him, she smiled with peace. "We did it." Kian placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady. "No. You did it. You proved that your kind's light cannot be destroyed." The soldiers fled into the forest, leaving their broken leader behind. The fortress stood silent, its gates wide open. Myra looked at it and then at the sky. "This is not the end. The Empire will return. But now, I am no longer afraid." Kian nodded. "And you will not stand alone. As long as I live, I will fight beside you." They walked together through the valley, their steps slow but sure. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and red. For Myra, it felt like the dawn of a new life. She was no longer the last of her kind waiting to be destroyed. She was a survivor, a fighter, and with Kian at her side, a beacon of hope. As the stars began to shine, Myra whispered to the night, "My people, your light lives on in me. And I will carry it into the future." The wind carried her words across the valley, and the stars seemed to shine brighter in answer. The battle was over, but their journey was just beginning. Together, a human warrior and the last Zarelian would walk into a galaxy still dark with Empire rule. But wherever they went, hope would follow.